Today we're going to talk a little bit about why businesses fail. Okay, there's a ton of examples. I'm just going to touch on a few of them. Some of them you might know, some you may not. And maybe if you're starting out in your business, maybe some of these things you can apply towards your business. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why people fail. Just a few are, number one, they run out of money. A lot of people start businesses with, they'll take, if they have $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in their savings, they'll take that money out, build a nice shop or rent a nice place to have a retail establishment or something like that. They'll go through that money, and then as they sell product, a lot of times they don't have the money to keep up with the inventory. Okay, so that's just one reason. When people run out of money, that's probably one of the biggest reasons. I mean, obviously, if you had a boatload of money, you don't have anything to worry about because, you know, money's still coming in, okay? Or you have money there to back yourself up, you know what I mean? That's not the case all the time. So running out of money is a huge deal with a lot of companies. You'll see companies that pop up today, and all of a sudden in 2 years or in a year even in some instances that they're just gone. Okay, well, these are some of the reasons for it. Okay, poor management is huge. So again, I'm just going to touch on these very briefly because there's a lot of them to cover. The poor management is a big part of it. If you're not managing your employees correctly, you're going to suffer. You're going to pay for that. Okay, I always say trust but verify. So when you put people in charge of things, you need to make sure that they get done. Your job as a manager is to delegate things to your employees and then make sure they get done. You can't just trust them to do it. This cost me a business of mine in Florida. This was a big deal for me. It's kind of a long story, but being 1,600 miles away and trying to run that business became very, very difficult. And I trusted my employees to do the right things, go out, do their job, and get me the results that they're supposed to get. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. Problem is, they just decided not to do that. The old adage, when the cat's away, the mice will play. That's exactly what happens. So trust your employees to do their job, but verify that they're doing their job. Okay? Can't stress that enough to you. Okay, so the poor growth strategies. I've seen people that have just no inclination of what they're getting into. They'll start a business, kind of like a crapshoot, and where they're just throwing crap at the wall and whatever sticks. And that it works. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a way to do that thing, but if they don't have a growth strategy in place, they'll hit bottlenecks. And again, this kind of comes back to running out of money. If all of a sudden there's good opportunities to come up where you can buy a ton of merchandise, let's say to resell it or put it in your store or whatever the case might be, maybe buy out another company. But if you don't have the money to do that, or you're growing so fast that you ran out of money, you don't have enough money to add another vehicle or whatever the case may be, that can hinder you, and it can actually put you under, because if your competition, especially if they're growing like crazy and you're not keeping pace, that's a big deal. Maybe eventually they're just going to take over and they will just own it all. Okay, I think your competition goes to bed at night thinking of ways to kick your ass, and you should be thinking the same thing. You really should, because that's exactly what they're thinking. They're trying to find a way to beat you. Okay, getting too big too fast. I've seen that happen. One example I'm going to tell you, this was a landscape guy that I went to see him in Appleton, Wisconsin, a place not far from me, and he grew so big, and all of a sudden he was having an auction before I knew it. And he was a young guy. He got into it and he just bought the best of everything. He was making good money, so he bought new dump trucks, new skid steers, and before you know it, all of his debt was just eating him alive. He wasn't bringing in enough income, so therefore, for numerous reasons, he just got too big, too fast, and it ended up costing him everything. Okay, so there's that. There's the employee theft thing. Absolutely huge. Again, I know people that have had their businesses just destroyed by employee theft, where the employees would just come along, and before they knew it, they had embezzled tons of money from them. So there's where you need to have your checks and balances. When you're running your businesses, you need to know what your numbers are, know what the figures are, know where the money goes. So, for example, if you say you bring in $500 today, you need to know that that $500 makes it to the bank. You should be checking your bank statements to make sure that's what went in, not $450 or not $300. You know what I mean? There needs to be checks and balances all the time. You need to be watching that. Leave me the comments down below. Let me know you guys' stories about the employee theft thing and what they've gotten you for over the years, because I think a lot of the people that view this would really like to read that information, okay, and hear your story. Anyway, moving off of that, the poor customer relations. I have seen that. I'm guilty of that. I have had relations with some of my customers where, you know, the whole customer's always right thing. It doesn't always fly with me, and I'm kind of hard in my ways about that, but I've had to learn to get a little softer. I've had to learn that it's not worth it for me, especially with customers that are constantly coming in. An example would be if I'm constantly have a customer that's spending a lot of money with us, and they come in because now they have a problem with say a vaping product or whatever it is that they happen to be coming in for, and hey, this thing, you know, they bought a lot from us in the past, and this guy comes in, he's got a problem with this one. Even though it's past the warranty date, I still am going to take care of this guy because he's a good customer. Early on in my years, I wouldn't do that. I was like, our policy is a policy. You got 2 weeks to bring it back. If you bring it back after 2 weeks, you're not going to get it. Well, it was just foolish for me to do that because he was a good customer. He brings us in a lot of money. I lost his business because of that one policy that we had. Now, on the other hand, you get a guy that comes in that spends $50 every 3 months with you. He's not nearly as valuable. And if he comes in, then, you know, a month later after he bought a device, I'm not going to refund that to him. I'm not going to break that policy to this guy because this guy seldom does anything for us. He spends such little money with us that it doesn't matter because he's buying a lot of his stuff online. Well, I'm not going to bend over backwards for someone like that, if that makes sense to you. Customer relations are huge. Today's day and age where they can leave bad Google reviews for you, this just kills me. You know, you can do work for 100 people, let's say landscaping. You can landscape for 100 people throughout the summer, and 99 of them are happy, and you run across that one that isn't happy, and then he will just plaster you with bad reviews. You know, I'd like to see that whole review system just thrown in the trash because it's such garbage. You can leave reviews for your competition that aren't even true. We have people that we don't even know that left us bad reviews, and we're like, oh, come on. You know, so you know that's your competition getting on there and just socking it to you, you know. So I'd like to see that get thrown in the trash, but it doesn't matter what I want. All right, moving past that. So good customer relations is very important, and it's also very important to have good employee relationships. So being involved with them, your employees can make or break you. If you're a prick to your employees, for lack of a better word, they're not going to be doing much for you. They're going to do their absolute minimum, if that. Okay? If you keep your employees happy and you're fair to your employees and you treat them like family, that's what I do. And I've been stung by that too. It's not that it doesn't happen. It does happen, but it doesn't happen as often. You know, I think if you treat employees like you would want to be treated, that's good enough. You know what I mean? Do things for them. You know, buy them lunch once in a while. You know, always give them a pat on the back. Tell them you're happy to see them and you're glad that they're working for you. And all those things help and they go a long way. They pay dividends down the line. On the other hand, if you're terrible to them, they can crush you. All right, so it's about the people in the process, you know. Moving beyond that, marketing. Oh my God. No matter what business you're in, you're a salesman. You're selling something. You're selling yourself. You could be selling webinars. You could be selling web videos. You could be selling products, vaping products, CBD products. You could be selling jewelry. Whatever you're selling and you're hustling, okay? So your marketing has got to be spot on, and you have to learn and you have to adapt. So a good example, let's say that you were noticing your competition is just thriving, but you never see any signs from him. You don't see any billboards that they've rented. You don't know how they're growing, Well, maybe they're growing because of word of mouth. Maybe they're growing, and it's generally not one thing. It's several things that they're growing, and it may be a lot of things that they're doing socially. Maybe it's pay-per-click advertising or Facebook advertising or even YouTube advertising. So there's a lot of things that they could be doing. So marketing is huge. You need to learn marketing. A lot of businesses fail because they refuse to market. I'm going to give you an example of a commercial I saw years ago. There was this guy's business was called Arnold's Rug. Okay, so Arnold's Rug, that was the name of it. Someone went up to him from the old Yellow Pages, and they're just like, Arnold, why don't you advertise in the Yellow Pages? And he said, because if I did, someone would come along and buy my rug, and then there would no longer be an Arnold's Rug. And I'm like, what? I mean, that mentality, I'm like, nobody could be that dumb, right? Believe it or not, there are. There was a car dealership not too far from me. So I have a retail garden center, for example, and I'm right on the major highway. I'm on the busiest highway going in and out of my town. So I say to this guy, because I'm thinking, hey, how can I make extra money out of this place, And I'm like, he's got a car lot. He's way out in the boondocks. No, he's got the same cars out there that have been there for 10 years, and because I drive by this on occasion, and I'm telling you, this guy's way out in the sticks. So I said to him, I approached him one day and I said, hey, why don't we work out a deal to where maybe you could bring a car in 1 or 2 a week or something like that, sell them at my property where they're going to get a lot of visibility from the highway, and you'll sell it, go through these cars a lot faster. And the guy is like, well, let me think about that. He thought about it for a minute, and then he comes back and he says, no, I don't think I want to do that. And I said, really, why not? And he said, well, because if they bought all the cars, then I wouldn't have anything on my lot here. And I'm like, what the? Isn't the whole idea of having a car lot and a car selling business to sell those cars? Apparently not. For the 50 people that go visit him in a year out in Timbuktu versus the 20,000 people a day that go by my place, yeah, I can really get that reasoning. So when you talk about marketing is huge. I see people that'll just sit there and don't do any marketing because they're afraid to spend the money, and they get crushed. They absolutely get crushed. So marketing's huge. Moving past that, the not knowing your numbers. This is critical. A lot of people are, and I was guilty of this early on in the years. I would look at the bank account at the end of the day and I would say, hey, how much money do we have in there? What did we make? And I didn't know the numbers. Without knowing your numbers, without knowing your P&Ls and everything that goes into your business, where all your expenses are, what it costs you to operate, and at the end of the day, what your net is, okay, what you're bringing home after you've paid everything. You would be surprised in a lot of these businesses, and this is why you see a lot of them fail. They don't know their numbers. So they just think, oh, I just need more work. I need more work. I need more work. So here's a prime example. Let's say you're doing a lawn mowing job for $25. Then you're doing this, and it's just a number I'm throwing out there. But let's say it costs you $20 to go there by the time you pay your guys the fuel, the insurances, the wear and tear on your equipment, so on and so forth. Your office girl, all these things could come up. But at the end of the day, you've paid that money out, and it costs you, say, $20, so you only made $5. And at the end of the day, you'll do 10 places and you made 5 on each, and that's $50. Well, at the end of the year, you're like, holy crap, that's all I have in the bank is that little amount? What am I doing wrong? What's going on? Well, you will never know what you're doing wrong if you don't know your numbers. You need to look at what it costs you to run that business. And you need to analyze those numbers. You need to figure it out. You need to look at that and say, Jesus, balls, $5, that's all I make on that? If I was doing 1,000 a day, yeah, that's fantastic. Or if I was doing 500 a day, that's great. But I'm not. I'm doing 20 a day, or I'm doing 15 a day. It's not good. It's not going to make you successful. You're going to lose your business. So if you're in business and you want to be a lowballer, like, oh, I'm going to come in. I watched the guy in my own neighborhood. He came in, he started a lawn care company. He was going to come in and crush everybody. He told everybody that. He's going to crush them. So he came in, I think at the time we were at $25, $35 a lawn, something like that. He came in for like $10. And I'm like, what in the hell? All he did was suck away all the low ballers to begin with. So he took all the tire kickers, and that's fine. He had them for a very short while. With like a year and a half, 2 years, he was done. He had never realized till the very end he had no money. Okay, so once his equipment broke down and whatnot, and he had no money to fix it, he's done. He's out of business. Okay, so that's just an example of that. Moving on, the growth strategies are huge. A lot of people don't realize that they'll bottleneck at some point. They will come into a stage in their life where they're like, okay, I've made X amount of money and things are going well, and all of a sudden you have the opportunity to scale. Like say there's you have the opportunity to buy out another company or something like that, and you could make a killing at this. You could have this whole market, but you didn't save your money early on. You didn't plan for anything like this, and so when that opportunity comes up, so your ability to grow, you could grow exponentially if you could buy that guy out. But if you didn't save any money, you're not going to be able to buy that guy out. So that's a whole nother deal. But anyway, growth strategies are very important. You need to have a strategy in any business when you start. Have a starting point and an end point, an exit strategy. You want to go, hey, I'm going to start here. In a year I'd like to be here, 2 years I'd like to be here, 5 years up here. Then I'd like to start looking for that exit strategy, okay? But start making a plan as you go along, okay? And as you plan, it's like a business plan, and it'll help you out and give you goals that you could make them attainable as you go through life, And just keep striving to get them. It doesn't mean you're going to get them all, but you just keep trying to, All right, that being said, distractions. Oh my God, lack of focus. I cannot tell you how much I suffer from this, or a lot of other people do too, and it will cost you your business someday if you don't focus. You have got to look at things like I look at my competition. I study them all day long, what they're doing. I see every sign that they put up. I focus on the things that they're doing. I look at what they're doing, and in my mind, it's like, how do I beat that? How do I compete with that? So I'm always trying to focus on that stuff. Now, I know a lot of guys that will work their 9-to-5 job, and then they just go home and that's it. They don't worry about anything else. They go home and they throw on a football game, or they, do whatever. They go outside and play or go fishing or whatever they do, but they don't focus on anything. They say, hey, I'm going 9 to 5 and that's all I'm going to do. Well, you're only going to get out of life what you put into it. Okay? Here's a prime time for an example that I had someone tell me one time. And he said, do you know, he said, I can pick in a dog fight. I've got 2 pit bulls, one here and one here, and I'm just throwing that out. Doesn't matter what the dogs are. You got 2 dogs. I can predict the winner every single time. And I'm like, okay, no, you can't. That's impossible. He's like, oh, yes, I can. And I'm like, okay, what's the strategy? Well, it's very simple. It's whichever one I feed the most. And I'm like, what? He said, yeah. He said, if I want dog A to win, and I don't condone dog fighting whatsoever, but this is just an example. I want you to get the point of this. If I want dog A to win, I will feed him, and I'll feed him good food and steaks and all kinds of things. And I'll feed him all week long so he's nice and strong and healthy. This guy, I barely give him anything, just enough to get by. He's going to be so weak when it comes time to fight. Easy to predict the winner, right? Same thing in business. Who is going to win? You or your competition? Which one are you feeding the most? Which one of you is hungry enough to go after it and get it? That's the guy that's going to win. That's the guy that says, I'm going to go out and dominate this. I'm going to find a way to beat you. That's the guy that's going to win. All right? That's my 2-dog strategy lesson example thingy I wanted to tell you. All right. I knew that fit in somewhere. Just didn't know where. All right. Anyway, the distractions. Again, huge focus with that. You got to focus your business every day. That's what that 2-dog thing is. It's the distractions. You can get so overwhelmed with the distractions, with the phone going off the hook. I can't tell you how often I've done this. Even fellow YouTubers who I love to death. But in the early days, I used to take phone calls constantly from them. And it got to the point where I didn't get anything done in my businesses. And I was losing thousands of dollars because of it. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. Back up. Yeah, you want to help the world. Just try and do it through your videos. And just not, you can't take a personal phone call from every single guy. As much as I want to, I just can't. So I had to regroup, refocus, and focus on my businesses, okay, and then find alternative ways to get things done, which is, ta-da, this. All right, moving on. When you spend your time putting out fires, this is another prime example, a great thing, and I see people losing their businesses because of this strategy, this one strategy. There forever and a day, these guys will tell me, that's it, I'm selling my business, I've had enough, I'm sick of the lawn care life, I'm sick of it, I can't keep employees, I got this going on, they're always breaking stuff, they're always stealing from me, they're this, that, and the other. These guys spend the majority of their time putting out fires, okay? And I say this with all due respect because I have been there, I've been through that gamut. When you spend all your time putting out fires, what you need to focus on is the fire starters. Whoever those guys are that are starting these fires, these complaints that you get all the time, finally you get so fed up and you lose one customer after another, and you're spending all your time just trying to pee on these fires everywhere that these guys of yours are starting. What you really need to be focusing on is getting rid of the fire starters. Getting rid of those guys. Get rid of the arsonists, you know. Get them out of your system. You don't want them there. You don't need them there, and they're killing your business. All right? Pay attention to that. It's a damn good lesson right there. For free, by the way. All right, let's see. So we talked about putting out the fires. I'm going to talk about another business that failed, and this one was my own. So it really hits home with me. So at one time I was doing hunting videos, and as I did these videos, I had a company, this is back in the day, and I had a company that actually did a lot of stuff for us. It was called Gander Mountain, and Gander Mountain, they ordered, at the time it was $18,000 worth of our hunting videos, and I had to go to the bank to get a loan to make that money. Now that would be like borrowing $80,000 today to go do the same thing, you know, because this was back in the day. And I did it, and I thought, hey, I told my brother, I said, hey, we finally hit the big time, this is just what we wanted, to do hunting videos for a living, this is fantastic, right? Nope, that didn't happen. They filed bankruptcy that year, and we were stuck paying that bank all that money. They took all of our videos, they ordered heavy before Christmas, they rented warehouses, stuck everybody's products in there, and then filed bankruptcy. Perfect company, right? Just beautiful. So anyway, that's the story of those guys, and that ruined me, that killed me. That I couldn't bounce back from that financially. I just couldn't do it. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that you can't control, but there's a lot of things that you can control. You can't control everything, you guys, as hard as you try, but there's a lot of things you can. If you pay attention to your numbers, know your numbers, that's probably, in my opinion, that's the worst thing a person can do, is not know your numbers. You can work and work your butt off, and if you don't know if you're making money or not, and you're waiting until the end of the year to look at your bank account, and then you find out you didn't make jack because your expenses were too high or for whatever reason, and you wasted a whole year of your life on that, that's a shame, and that shouldn't happen. Know your numbers early on, and it takes time to build businesses. They don't happen overnight, so I'll do a video on that as well. But anyway, regardless, good luck everyone. I hope it works out for you. These are some of the fires to watch out for, and I'm sure there's many, many more, but good luck.